Shabbat Shalom again, everybody. So this is part of our service where we discuss what we heard. And there's a few things I highly recommend we read it again when I send it out, because there's a lot of information in here that doesn't always get across in the first reading. It made me think of, there was an old parable, actually, it was an Indian parable, and it spoke about 6 men who were asked to describe an elephant. And so the first one went and he felt the leg, and he said, well, the elephant is like a pillar. And the second one felt the tail, and they said the elephant is like a rope. And the third one felt the trunk, and it said the elephant is like a tree branch. And the next one was the ear, and it said the elephant is like a hand fan. And the next one felt the belly underneath, and it says, oh, the elephant is a wall. And the last one felt a tusk, and the blind man said, oh, it's like a solid pipe. All of it were true, but only partially true. It's like in that Gestalt picture that we saw the old woman and the young woman. So we may be so sure that we have the whole truth, but no one has the whole truth, only God. And that's why we have to always be humble and be willing to look at things from another perspective, to see that we don't hold the whole truth, that there are many truths, except for only God has the whole truth. And the thing that helped me in this, Mauricio, and I thank you for that, because we're so quick to get into arguments about things. I know friends and family who, as soon as we start to talk politics, we go nuts. They get so upset with me because they don't agree with me. Or they get so excited about who's going to win. This week it was the Panthers and the Edmonton, the Oilers. People were like going nuts and arguing and fighting over these ridiculous issues. And you're right. Why would we bother? It's like these are foolish issues. The most important thing when it comes to what the Torah says, the truths of the Torah, the truths of the commandment, there is no argument. And yet, even then, people interpret according to how they see it. So it really is, it's not always simple. As Rabbi said, there's a lot of gray areas. It's not everything is black and white. And we can get caught up in a mire of opinions, but it's impossible for us to know truth today. We have to really stand back, as you said, and really take a look and really pray that God would open our ears and our hearts and our minds. And he does. That's the beauty of walking with God, is he opens our hearts. So that's thank you. It's a good message. And I know there were a lot of readings, but Solomon obviously thought they were important enough to have repeated that idea over and over again. Don't get into arguments with fools, because you just will go down to their level and we can't learn much.
It's interesting that even if you do so-called go down to their level, there's no, as you're saying, in fact, there's no point, because the ultimate truth is that there's a God. Now, if 90% or 98% of the world don't acknowledge something bigger that created all of this, then the most things you cannot really talk about. It's interesting because last week I was at the bar mitzvah, and the rabbi, the female, by the way, but anyways, the rabbi, something she said were very good and something, but she was talking about the 10 Commandments and the importance, blah, blah, blah. But then she added about the idea of interpretation, that everything, she uplifted the idea that everything could be talked about and has many angles, and in a lot of ways that's true, but it's not really true if you don't have any solid base, because then truth could be, as I always say, but could be anything you believe to be true. Now, the 10 Commandments, maybe you could say things have changed a little bit and we have different values, blah, 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 but it's still everyone, if you look at them, are literally what they say. honor your mother and your father. Okay, things are different now, but it doesn't mean you don't honor your mother and father or whatever. So if you don't have a common, the idea that there's an absolute, that there's a God, nothing makes sense. You can talk until you're blue. It becomes all about interpretation. I mean, you can interpret many things. You could read passages like we're doing today, and we're talking about the elephant, and say, well, there are many sides to this, many things, and I may get this and you may get that. But if you start and look at it and say, well, without a God, there's nothing, it's not even interpretation. It's, well, I think it's right and you don't. That's not an interpretation. We hold strongly to our belief, and that's all, and it's considered valid, you know? So that's interesting. But just another thing that, before I forget, this morning I had a huge cup of tea. I love it with honey and cream. Very rich, delicious tea. And as I was putting some honey in it, my mind just like whirled very quickly. And I know that apparently honey, Peggy, you would know more about this. Honey is almost an eternal food. It's indestructible. It could sit in your house for 10 years and not go bad. That's right, right?
Yes.
Unless it has cornstarch and junk in it, which, you know, but a pure tea, honey, will last. It's an eternal thing. So when the spies were sent into the land, and it's called the land of milk and honey. Now I don't believe that's literal. It's not a
honey
land
at room temperature.
Sorry?
Keep the honey at room temperature, not in the fridge.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I just want to say, when they entered the land, and they told us the land of milk and honey. Honey has an eternal, it's goodness that's eternal. It could last forever. It's almost like a metaphor for true and good in this world. If you, it's goodness. The land is good, and it's healthy, and there's good things for you. I just thought about that. I'm drinking my tea and putting the honey in, and it just that came up. Very, very interesting, you know. And about going into the land as a fool or going in as a wise person.
Right.
It's
And the other
awesome.
thing is, one of the things that walking with the Torah and walking with God helps us to do is that when we act as a fool, we are open to reproof. We're humble enough to realize that what we've said was wrong, because it happens to me all the time. I have a way, and I inherited from my mother. My father gave my mother initials after her name, called VOA, voice of authority. When she spoke, even when he knew she was wrong, she said it in such a way that he doubted himself. And so she speaks with authority, and I do that sometimes. I'm with Miriam, and I know that I'm right, and then it turns out that I was not right, that Miriam was right, but Miriam didn't say anything because sometimes she's afraid of me. So and then I have to say, Miriam, you were right and I was wrong, because all of us have there's moments we act the fool. But we have to be willing to be humble enough to admit it, and that's how wisdom will grow in us. And wisdom comes with experience. There are no children that are born wise, even though today children are put up on pedestals and their behavior is lauded by all these adults, where honestly, they have a lot to learn before they become wise. So thank you, Mauricio. It was a really wonderful message.
Yeah, I would like to add something, and it's related to what Miriam said, the honey and the milk, okay?
Yes.
Both products comes from something that is not able to eat. Milk comes from the blood of the woman, right? Or from the cow, the blood. I mean, blood become in Greece, obviously, both convert into milk. Milk is not something that here is a milk from a tree, for example, or the bees, which is an insect that is prohibited to eat okay, is not is I can remember is I don't want to use the word corrupted, but it's not something allowed from God to eat the bee, okay, then brings milk, brings
Honey.
honey, right, which is appropriate to eat, okay. So this is a process, okay, and both needs a process that something that is not allowed to eat becomes in something that you can eat and is so and this is very interesting because this is an idea that comes from the Torah in we can see in this portion, okay. Remember that in the Haftarah it says that were sent two spies to Jericho, right? According to the Merishim, were Caleb and Pinchas, and they went in.
Caleb and Joshua.
Yeah, no, Caleb, no, the two spies. I mean, in Joshua, they sent two spies to Jericho.
Right.
Okay, so and also supposedly was Pinchas, the other one. And they went into the place for a woman, Rahab.
Right.
Okay. And yes, there are two interpretations about who was Rahab. Okay.
Right.
One, that she was a sunnah, which is a prostitute. Okay.
Right.
According to one midrash, it says that at 10 years old, she became a prostitute, and then for the 40 years that Israel was in the desert, she was practicing this kind of prostitution. And she was a very beautiful woman, um, according to the midrash. And at the time of 50 years old, she decided to leave this practice and make teshuvah and and believe in the God of the Israelites. Okay, that's one interpretation. The other interpretation is, oh no, that is the meaning in this portion is not really that she was a prostitute. She was a person who has like a hotel or
An
a bar.
innkeeper. An innkeeper.
Yeah, innkeeper. Yeah. So, and they said that probably because from this woman, okay, according to the Midrashim, she got married with Joshua, and from her descend many important persons, was Prophet Jeremiah, Prophet Ezekiel, and so on, many different persons in importance of Israel.
Is
By
that
the way,
in the Tanakh that Rahab married Joshua?
no, it's according to the
The
Midrashim.
sages. Okay.
Yeah, the sages. So, and then it's so interesting. But yeah, in some historical books, okay, appears the Rahab. Okay, remember in the Besorah of Matitayahu, I think it says that they mention in the genealogy of Jesus appears Rahab, okay, and the other linen of the woman. But the point is this is like the honey, okay, okay. Rahab is like the bee, someone who is not good for our standards. But before God, this bee can bring you honey, something that you can eat in the future. and preserves, like the Torah. Okay. Um, in this is interesting because when we look under God's eyes, sometimes, and I'm referring to myself, sometimes I've been so judging to many persons because I cannot see always their potential. Okay. I don't have the eyes of God that he don't look, for example, to this drug addict, or he doesn't look to this a prostitute. He doesn't look really to this man who is under alcohol at this moment. He sees the potential of that person, in God knows if that person in some moment of their lives, okay, decides to make teshuvah and return to God, that person can bring honey to the world.
Right.
Okay. So in this is about to be wise and to be full. Okay. In Spanish we have different words for full. Okay. Is not only full as it's in English. We have necio.
Fool like tonto?
Tonto, yeah, is one kind of fool, but necio is the one that is referred to this person, because tonto is more like a person uh, who 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 has a cognitive problem. Okay,
Oh, okay.
okay, so he cannot connect what is good or bad because of his cognitive problem. Okay, that is tonto. Okay, but necio comes from the heart, from your own decision. You want to be like that. Okay, you decided to be like that, to act like that. Okay, so for me is better to say that word in Spanish, because
Yes.
full in English for me is
Well,
so
there's more pride.
wide.
There's more pride in it. I will never
Yeah,
surrender. I stay in my position.
yeah. The problem is that the full, uh, for that reason, I put it first on the message, because in Psalm 14 and 53, okay, it says that the heart, in his heart, the fool said.
Right.
So comes from where? From his heart. Heart is will, heart is desires,
Intention.
intention, mind. There's so many meanings of the heart, okay? But in his heart is not a reality. That is very important thing. It's not a fact. Is his idea, or in my own mind, I will say, okay, like, I don't know, I have this and I know that if I just take my hand out, this honestly will fall, because there's a gravity law that attracts to the soil, that any object. Okay,
Right.
so the fool says, oh, I will take my hand out and this will keep here.
Right.
But when he takes out his hand, then the law is already working in his heart, in his mind. He's saying, no, it will not work. I say that is not true. The gravity law do not exist. But at the end, that is why is something from his heart. It's not from a fact. It's not something that is truth. Okay. So in his heart says, there is no God. Oh, but when we say there is no God, is beyond, okay, to say there is no God. Because one simple meaning is, you said, oh, I atheist, I don't believe in any God, right? Ain't no theos God. So I decide not to believe in God. There is no God. Okay, this is very simple, but also when we do not fear God, when we do not follow his commandments, when we decide not to obey his voice, that is something that we are saying, because remember, it's in his mind, it's not in his mouth. Okay. So in my mind, I'm saying, oh, there is no God. I can do whatever I want. I want to please to do, I will do. Even though I go to the synagogue or go to the church or go to the mosque to pray to God, honestly, at the end, I don't believe in God. I don't fear God. So so he says there is no God. So who is God? Then I. Okay.
Self.
Because if there is no, yeah, I am God in some way. And then it says they have corrupted. Okay. When he says that they have corrupted, the meaning is not really, oh, is that you have an original design from God. Okay. And when we say, oh, there is corruption, and when you put or you add some ingredients to the original formula, okay, and then it's not pure as was created. For example, if to I don't know, what happened, for example, if I put to the gasoline and I add a little bit of water. Okay.
Better buy a new car.
Yeah, go and buy a new car, right? But the original formula is the gasoline that needs to have some oil, and some purity and some density to work. But if I add, for example, to sell more, okay, and I add some water inside, what will happen? I contaminate, I pollute the gasoline. So the purpose of why the gasoline was made will not be fulfilled at the end, because I decided to put an additive that instead to help destroys. Okay.
I wonder.
So
Okay, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in the same idea, they have corrupted is, okay, they have added to God's words, for example, or they have added their own ideas to what? To the Torah, to the words of God, to the desire of God that he said in you know, the principle of the mankind was on Bereshit. He said, okay, take care of the planet, okay, of the garden. That is our purpose. And humanity is the last thing we are doing right now. We are destroying our planet. We are sending wars, whatever. So instead to keep the garden, we are destroying the garden.
Right.
Okay. Then he said, go and multiply and fulfill the earth. Okay. But multiply means that it's not necessary to create a new human being. Is
Right.
to spread God's mind into the whole earth. Okay. And get to the conclusion that this is the idea of how the Torah was given to Moses when earth in heaven come together. Okay. So that's the whole idea about the in Bereshit. And so, and we added to many things to this to this principle that so right now we have person who says, oh yeah, I want to add, for example, this idea that came to my mind, okay, and is not related to the Torah. For example, I was reading that some in the Quran, for example, it says that Mahoma had sex relations with girls, but I mean girls 6 years old,
And
12 years old.
9 years old, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So, for example, when you read that and said, oh, how it could be good that, yeah, it's a man's ideas adding something that comes from his own lust, and then we give to say, oh, that is God's desire, okay, and they spread this idea. And the problem is that all this idea, there's a lot of fools that believe in that because they have that same desire in their hearts to do and to act wrong. Okay, so that becomes an idea that is false, becomes truth.
right.
So for that reason, it says they have corrupted. And then this is a level, okay? First, I start to believe there is no God. Then I believe I corrupted myself with my own ideas. And then the problem is that there is consequences, okay? What are the consequences? It says that they made abominations. In what kind of abomination is that? Well, that is not the problem that I do to myself because of my foolishness. Is the problem that I spread to the world, okay, to my neighbor. And this is a real problem today. Why? Because, for example, as I mentioned, okay, some Jeanette sent this week a video of a Jewish guy. I can remember his name, but he started to explain the ideological war of Hamas. Okay. Okay. First, they do not believe in God, honestly, even though they say, "Oh, Allah." Yeah, but it's not about Allah. The problem is that they create an idea of who is Allah, but then they corrupted, okay, the design of God, and they said, okay, this is a holy land. So the problem is that there is a land which are not Muslim in this holy land. All the holy land must be Muslim. Okay. Yeah, they can exist supposedly as a Jew, but they can practice the Jewish. But the problem is the land is not Muslim country. So we need to disappear the state of Israel because it's not Muslim. So it's a theological. So now, if we can see that, the problem is that there is no God. I corrupted the word of God, and then I make abominations and act with injustice. And that is why, because we saw what happened on October 7th, how they destroy families, kill people, innocent people, no war targets. So that is something really that is destroyed. And then it says, they say in their mind, because remember what Yeshua said, what is in your heart, then you speak out. And now they start to say with their mouth, okay? They said, there is no one who makes good. So when you start to say that, it's something that we are saying, oh, humankind is not good. But what the Torah taught us in Bereshit, God saw the humanity,
It's very
and
good.
what he said, it's good. Everything I did is good. And on the seventh day, it says that he blessed all that he created. So when I said, oh, that man is not good, okay, in the sense of that that God make a mistake by creating that man, okay, obviously what he decided to do with his life or her lives is another thing, but the principle, there is no one who is good. What is saying, humanity was a mistake from the creator.
Mm.
Okay, and I have heard a lot of persons saying that. Okay, yeah, I can tell you that's why in the world there is no one who is a bad person. There are full persons, okay, because they act, they think not what God desires, what with God mentality, but their own mentality. So, in returning back to what I said at the beginning, okay, if Rahab had the merit to have in her line good persons in the future, as the bee can create honey, or the cow can create milk, okay, so God, okay, can do things that you never wonder in any person, even though you look to yourself, oh, I'm not good enough, okay. So be wise, and as you mentioned, sometimes honestly, during one day I can act fool and I can act wise.
Exactly.
Every day I am struggling with that.
Yes.
But I want to that my weight of wise be more than full. So
Exactly. You have a head start. You have a head start.
yeah,
You get to my age, you'll be very wise.
yeah. So that is something that I wanted to share.
That's beautiful. You know, it's interesting because you talked about uh, how Miriam was mentioning how the honey can be adulterated when you add something else to it. If you add sugar or you add cornstarch or whatever, you adulterate the honey. Milk can be adulterated when you add water or something else. It's not real milk. And it's the same thing, you know, God said, do not add and do not take away anything from my words. Don't take away from his creation. It's a principle, and we're all doing that. And, you know, I was thinking about this whole concept of about atheist. I'm not sure that there is such a thing as an atheist, even though they say that there is. It's like you could say, well, there's a big mountain there. Oh, I don't believe in that mountain. You can choose to believe in it or not. It's like people say, I don't believe in God, but there's something that they know that's there that they choose not to believe in, but it's there. So I'm not really sure about this whole concept of atheism. You know, it's just that they don't like what they've heard about him, and they're replacing themselves with God. So there's still the whole concept of God. But anyway, there's so many
things.
so many issues we could discuss. It's amazing.
I just wanted to go back again, just for Mauricio, what you said. You know, honey and milk. You can't go pick honey off the tree or milk off a tree. They come basically from the blood, like God said, don't eat the blood, but you can eat what I make from the blood, which is honey. So it's another example of what you're saying, that what God made for us is good, and the reality of God's presence is the base of all the universe. So even the land of milk and honey, they didn't go in and suddenly see honey or milk, but that was the land from God. It's not about, and the umbilical cord which God
Honey,
made,
blow up.
yeah, which has the blood, it's from God. So when you go in and it's the land of milk and honey, it's the land of God. It's
Yes.
just so many levels of beautiful images.
Yeah.
The umbilical cord is from the creation that God created, and blood, which He said, don't eat. We're not to eat the blood. It's because we eat what It's another way of not recognizing the presence of a God, of a Creator. Anyway,
Yes.
it's really beautiful. So
Yes, Brian.
that message.
Honey is the barf from
Yeah,
the
the,
neck.
the vomit of the bee. Exactly. Yeah,
The word vomit. It tastes very good.
But
exactly.
what beautiful
I love
color.
it. I love honey. I eat it every day. It's wonderful. So that was very interesting. What an interesting topic. I really recommend that you go back and read the message again, and read those portions. I know it was a lot of reading, the Proverbs and Samuel, and a lot of different quotations, but they all lead to us being wise, and that's something that right now this world needs so desperately. There's no common sense anymore.
It's interesting, just also, again, that people who work with bees don't get stung.
Yeah.
Like, bees are not dangerous creatures. We just shouldn't interfere with what they have to do. But and another metaphor about bees is that we're losing bees in this world. We're turning from God, and what God gave us as a beautiful food is dying out. Bees are being destroyed and dying out.
Yeah.
And they say when bees are totally gone, there's no more. We can't. The earth will die.
Yeah. Yeah, I've watched documentaries on what people are doing to the bees, and it's really. Remember how a rabbi said that one of the first books they read in the Hasidim, they teach the children the book of Leviticus, and that every time the child is asked a question or says something right from the book of Leviticus, they give them a little bit of honey on the tongue. It's like teaches them that the word of God is so sweet. And it really is, if we all started learning that in the proper way from when we're children. So that's our job as adults, to bring this to our children. And anybody
Yeah,
else?
and
Yeah.
and also I like to add something regarding to foolishness. Um, you know, I think it was on Thursday. Uh, I was watching and I just saw 5 minutes. What that was enough. Okay, to say be wise and do hear more. I saw the debate presidential of United States.
Yeah, me too. I watched it.
And when I watch it, I just wonder how it could be possible that two two men who are before the more powerful nation of the world, the leaders, uh, honestly, they when I saw their faces, their emotions, everything, how they spoke, and I said, "Oh God, please save us." Okay, because it's not about to be Democrat or Republican. I
Right.
mean, there is no God there. Okay.
Yes. Mm.
And I said, oh, um, so it came to my mind what is in Isaiah. Don't call the nobles fool. Okay. I hope someday we can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Right now, the novels really are full.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So,
the fool says in his heart, there is no God.
yeah,
Yeah.
I am the God. I have the button, red button,
Yes.
to
Exactly.
destroy the world.
Yeah. Jerry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Peggy. First, to the comment, Mauricio seems to have quite a lot of insightful knowledge. Just to take a couple of things from what he said when he or put my hand when he mentioned when he was holding that thing in his hand, and when he opened his hand, it fell out. Reminds me of God holding the world. We're existing, but we're in His hand. If He opens His hand, we can fall out, and so that's. I mean, I could take a lot from what he said, but we'll go on forever. But we're not going to do that. And the other thing is, He's holding us in His hand, but also He's flying us like a kite. He's flying us like a kite. He's letting us free in the air, but He's still holding the string. He has still one hold on us, so He's helping guide us. And I'm just going quickly here. Miriam, that's fantastic what you said with the what you brought up, the honey. That honey lasts for a long time, and people go into the salt water to be cured. I understand that, and I'm not sure how it works, but honey will also cure certain things on your body. And I see you're shaking your head, Peggy. I'd like to know how that works. I know how salt works, but I'm not sure how that works. And now we're getting back to you, Peggy, I guess, where we started. And you mentioned a lot of humility, and you mentioned once the word pride. I would like you to, and the other thing which I'm very impressed, you must have do a lot of research over the time for all your quotes and everything. You must have put a little bit of work in there, but which is fantastic. And then you mentioned, let's say, coming back to humility and pride. I'd like to compare pride to money and against murder. And oh yes, let me just I'm just going to squeeze in. Excuse me, Mauricio. I just want to thank you, and especially you're talking not in your mother tongue. I think that's fantastic, fantastic. But anyway, let me get back to Peggy. It's so. How is money and pride the same? Money, they say, is the root of all evil, but it's also the root of all good.
Well, actually, let me correct you there, just Jerry, before you continue, because it doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money. It's very different. We need money. Money is money makes the world go around. No, I'm serious. Kidding.
I think we alluded to that. There's a chapter in Testament in Timothy talks about that.
Yes, and yeah, but well, Yeshua spoke about that too. The love of money is the root of all evil. It's because we need money. But if you do everything just for money, look what happened with Israel and the Egel Zahav, the golden calf. The idea of if we put anything before God, anything cannot take the place of God.
But it is there also, and this is maybe myself has brought this forward. It's also the root of good, as you mentioned, money, because as you just said, money makes the world go around for many people. So it's important. If you want something done in your house, for example, and there's an electrician and he's just not going to do it, but if you give him money, he'll do it. So there's many things certain people will do for you for money. In that case, it's very, very important. Good. I'm speaking quickly because I don't want to take too much time. And the other thing is, now we're getting back to, and lastly, the money and pride. Pride is similar to money. How is it similar to money? Because pride is could be the greatest evil, and pride could be a certain good. So I would like, and the other thing is, which you mentioned, I know I'm jumping around, Ecclesiastes and Proverbs would be fantastic to review both those things. But getting back to finally, the pride and money. Pride was taken in some circles as the greatest evil, and I'm not sure. So someone from pride, I think I looked ahead one shot because I thought it was coming next week's Parsha Korach. I think it was a thing of pride. So it's very dangerous, and you're contrasting Korach with pride and Moses with humility. So I'm just wondering, is pride, question here, is pride a sin? Is it comparable to murder and adultery and raping? Like pride, I'm not sure how that fits in. I can't express it. I'm not that proficient in my verbal expressions. But if you want to say a word on that, Peggy, or now or sometime in the future, about the evil of pride, and it is considered in certain circles one of the greatest sins.
Well, if we look again, as I see it, and I'm sure other people have their own opinions, but I look at the whole story of Egypt and the Pharaoh and Moses being the most humble men ever known, and Pharaoh represents being the most prideful man, because look what pride did to him. Look what happened, how pride did not allow him to acknowledge, because he was raised thinking that he was a god. And here Moses is bringing him the God of the universe. And his pride was so strong that it took 10 plagues, and he still would, it was after the 10th plague where he lost his firstborn son to let our people go. And then even after that, he followed after us into the desert and right into the sea, and the Yam Suf, and he lost his whole army. He was completely destroyed. Pride will destroy us. Pride is one of the worst things that we can have. And it's not saying that, like when I hear right now about Jewish pride, and I hear this everywhere, we have to be strong. We have to stand up against anti-Semitism. We have to, we're proud to be Jews. If you look at just at this portion, didn't it say when the spies came in, the scouts went in, and at the very end, they understood that what they did was wrong, as when God said to them, now you will not go into the promised land. All those of 40 years and older will die in the desert. You will die here. And then they said, okay, now we are going to go in and fight. We're going to go after the Canaanites. And it was their pride, because Moses didn't go with them and Aaron didn't go with them. The ark didn't go with them. They went on their own. If we don't acknowledge that God goes before us, if we think that we are going to go because we're proud, it'll never work. God wants us to trust him. It doesn't mean that he doesn't allow us in strength to go. Not having pride, how can I explain it?
It's not, it's different when you say, let's say, you're proud of your son or you're proud of your daughter.
When they do an achievement, when they do something.
Yes. So maybe there should be another word. There's a kind of arrogance behind a certain type of pride that replaces the need or the belief in a supreme God. That's the ultimate pride. But if you, Jerry, say, I'm proud of the work I did as a denturologist or whatever your trade was or your profession, that's fine. But then you say, thank God, Baruch Hashem, that he gave me the head, that's the intelligence to follow and to learn and stuff. But that's the difference between pride and, I would say, arrogance. Maybe another word for pride.
Miriam, yeah, you're touching exactly of what I was getting at, pride. And I made the comparison with money, root of evil and the root of good. The pride is like the mother and father. It could be the mother and or father of arrogance and all these things. And I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this whole idea of pride and humility. You're touching exactly on where I was coming from, Miriam.
Okay.
Yes, Mauricio, you were going to say?
Yeah, the point is, well, we go back. We're gonna do rewind as I did when I was kid with cassettes. Okay, so the point is, God created us good, right? In who is the humankind? The humans, God gave them a body, okay, but also gave them a mind. In the mind, there is a lot of emotions, okay? And these emotions needs to be in balance. The emotions are not good, are not bad, are just emotions. Okay, so if we believe in that, okay, so there are some aspects in our heart that are that I would say that sadly the society said, oh, that is bad, and so we put a tag a label that is bad, but it are not. For example, there is some need, okay, in for example, if you have angry, you are angry, yeah, that is good to defend yourself. For example, if a dog comes and tries to attack you, you won't say, oh, shalom, dog. No, you need to be angry with that to say, oh, I am the master, okay? Don't do that, okay? So you care his attention, okay, to that dog, okay? But you need the anger. So anger is not bad, it's not good. The problem is when there is no balance in the anger, and so in your anger becomes some wrath, and then violence, and then you kill a person.
Yeah,
Okay.
be angry, but do not sin.
Yeah. So, and it's the very same with pride. Pride is something that God is an emotion that God put in us just to feel good to yourself. Okay, you give thanks good to God always. Okay, but also to say, God, it's incredible that my hands did this, okay, or did that, okay.
Yes. You feel good about
And
what you have achieved.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then or something that probably you didn't do, but some of your community or some of that you belong to made an achievement, okay,
Yes.
and you feel really, oh, it's great, this is
Yeah.
so good. For example, your national team, Canada, is playing in Copa America, and then they won, and you say, oh, this is, I feel good to be Canadian, okay.
Yeah.
So that is something good.
Yeah.
Okay, but the problem is when there is no balance about pride,
Right.
and you put a lot of pride, it's like a soup. Okay, probably it says, okay, pour some salt to your food, and then it tastes good. But what happens if you take a kilo of
Right.
salt
Yeah.
inside your meal? Then your meal tastes salty, and you say, oh, wakala,
Yeah.
that is not for me, it's
Yeah.
not good. There is no balance of salt. So it's the same with pride,
Right.
with money, okay, with everything,
Yes.
okay. Needs just a little, and that's it.
That's why
Okay.
God gave us boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is that there is an excess of some emotion, and is also to be, oh, I'm good enough, in yeah, you can be, for example, a very good hostage in your house, a guest in your house, and everybody welcome to your house, everybody, okay, come here. Yeah, that's hospitality, and that is great. Oh, something, wow, wonder. But what happened when you are uh so good host that every day there is no privacy in your house?
Privacy.
Yeah, privacy. Yeah. And so and what happened with
Yeah.
that? I cannot believe my kids trying to get out from the room, and they cannot because there is always a person there, or my
Right.
wife.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
something that is good,
Yeah.
According to the Torah is good,
Yeah. And
but
it's
I put
boundaries.
too much. So that is the problem. Balance.
Exactly.
And you know, how much is the balance? I don't know, honestly. It depends, I think, for everyone. Everyone has different levels.
Every
For
comfort.
example, I can tell you, I love, for example, the acids. I mean, when I say acid, like lemons, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like citrics, okay? I love that.
Yeah.
If, for example, my wife make a meal, I need to pour some lemon there because
Okay.
I love that,
Yeah.
okay? My dad, for example, loves too much sugar.
Yeah.
He has some meals and need to put sugar over that.
Wow.
So, but it depends on everyone.
Right.
Okay. So for me, it's good. For another one person to say, "Oh no, that is so citric. I hate that."
Yeah.
Okay. I feel something in my teeth, so I won't do that. And I don't like, for example, too much salt in my food.
Mhm.
But I can see a lot of person, for example, eggs, they add some salt, for example. I don't like eggs with salt. Okay.
Wow.
So everybody has their own measure.
Right.
Okay. So it's relative. For that reason, I cannot say, oh, that's too much of something, or that's too much for. So
We
it
need to live.
depends.
We need to live and let live.
Yeah.
And let other people have their way without imposing on everyone what they think is right and true.
Yeah, because it's their quote, it's not mine. So
Exactly.
the point is that we need to, like in this portion we learn, we need to make a tour inside of us,
Yes.
okay, the to-do, so we can know exactly what is enough of something to us or not.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Well, this was a wonderful session and wonderful message. Thank you so much again. And thank you for your participation, everyone. Miriam and Jerry and Mauricio and all those who are listening in and watching. So I wish you all a wonderful rest of the Shabbat. Next week, I guess Mauricio will be leading the service because I'll be away. Mauricio, I guess I'll send out the link for your own personal
Yeah,
from.
I already download.
Yes, I know, but it's a different Zoom class. The Zoom number is different from next week, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you log in
Okay.
on your own. So I'll send that out. I just realized that because everybody will
Okay.
be logging in here and you won't be there. So
Right, so we have to log into a different Zoom next.
yes, and I'm going to send that out to you
Okay,
at the end of the day.
okay.
So enjoy the rest of Shabbat, whatever you do, rest, relax, read the word, read the message again, and we'll see you, God willing. Well, I'll see you when I get back in 2 weeks from now. So have a wonderful one.
Sorry, safe trip.
Safe trip.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye,
Shalom.
bye.
Bye.
Shabbat shalom. Bye, everyone.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.